Welcome back. All right, so we have brought Linette, Marty, Oliver, and Shawn back out on stage for your questions and their discussion. They have one microphone to share across the four of them, so please be patient. But myself and Jen, another Intermitten co-founder, organizer, everyone round of applause for Jen. She rules, yeah. Only because she hates that, only because she didn't want me to do that. So we will now come down into the audience for you guys to ask your questions. So let's see. Trevor, can we go to the next slide? One more. Bam. Okay, who has questions? Anyone? Show of hands. Sure, of course.
I love to start the show. So a question for you about yes and, because I actually did improv, and so I try to incorporate that yes and into the company.
Sure.
But sometimes there's a situation where you know whatever they're bringing up doesn't work. So how do you handle that situation so you're not turning it down right away, essentially?
Yeah, so that's like a common thing that even happens when you're performing. Someone brings up something that you don't necessarily want to go towards. In my experiences, I go towards those. I mean, obviously there's like barriers of like, no, we're not doing this. Just like common moral things. Which happen a lot on the stage. But sometimes something that seems like it might not be a direction you want to go into could be a direction you want to go into. Like a classic story is when you're brainstorming with people and people are joking around like, this could be an idea, let's just write it, whatever, we'll put it on the board. And then more ideas. And eventually you go back to that one that was like, that was so stupid, but wait, it's kind of perfect. You know? So yeah, I go towards those.
Along those same lines, I mean, it depends on how much time you have on the project, because I think sometimes bad ideas sort of like time just reveals that this idea is not working and it goes away on its own. But if you don't have that luxury of time, I think there's actually like a precondition before all that, and that's having that establishing that trust on the team in the workplace that like you can have candid conversations. James and I throw out bad ideas all the time, and he's no problem telling me they're absolute shit. And like I have the same thing with him, but like we put in the groundwork to develop that relationship.
Next question. Hello, my name is Omari Lewis, fellow educator. This is a question for Linette. In 2015, well, the question is, how was the teachers' time management put together? I'm gonna just give a little. Can I give some background to that question? I left teaching due to the frustration of not being able to teach using 21st century skills, which is this collaboration piece that we see happening in Detroit, this collaborative ecosystem that's being brought. I was fortunate enough to go to startup, and I saw the rebranding at Coble Hall, but I started my own company to address this need that teachers have, that students have, that is present in Detroit. And so I merged. It's really a classroom activity, how I look at it, a hands-on activity where I decided to merge the physics of golf and the history of golf, and provide it for the community, for the students. But in that journey, it just got crazy. But back to the question. I know it was a long, whatever. But sorry. But yeah, time management, like because you're teaching for the test. I found, and I wanted to break away from that. So how did that come about, to be able to have the space talk with art, have the space talk, to create, learning, without using the old lecture, and use this new paradigm shift of collaboration. How did it play out in the school?
First of all, I'm I'm not a teacher. I'm a graphic designer. I teach at Eastern, and I've become really aware working with kids how much the college students I work with really want to please me, and how bound in they are by adult behavior. So I really wasn't used to being in a classroom of second through fifth graders. My role in this project was, I helped write the grants, and I was really dedicated volunteer and snack master. But the other part of that question is that, all of this stuff happened after school. So when after school, we're free. It's like an opening where you can do some really experimental or intensive or interdisciplinary work that I assume is super hard for teachers during the school day. And we really did lack time management and sometimes classroom management, if not for Dylan, who is our fly teacher, who's really skilled at that kind of stuff. But Thea and I had lots of struggles of not being listened to. But so our time management was everyone has to go home at 3. They went home at 3:45. So we were just racing across, and it was messy and collaborative in that way.
Okay, my name is Frank, and my question is for Linette. So first of all, I just wanted to say I enjoyed the piece on Holmes Elementary. And I was just curious. One of the cool things about it is I noticed one of the kids, I'm a youth football coach, and I noticed one of the kids in the photos. So I thought that was really cool. His name is Trenton, actually.
I love Trenton.
Trenton, yeah.
Thea and I love Trenton.
Yeah, one of my favorites. So, but yeah, I was just curious how you came about with picking Holmes Elementary. Like, what was the criteria for it?
Let's see. I think I had coffee with my friend Yen Azaro, who worked for the school district, and she had mentioned that Holmes Elementary was doing amazing things and collaborating with the community in ways that were so intense. Seth didn't mention all of his community partners, but it's Eastern School of Social Work and U of M, and it's a Society of Engineers, and it's 826, and all of these people are in the building after school, and that's such a powerful thing. They also go to school year-round, which I think is going to be so awesome because they're actually going to see this garden grow. They go to school year-round and take what would be their summer breaks throughout the year. So the success of the school made it a really interesting place. And we knew that we'd have a real partnership with that principal and that school. And he's moving to the middle school in fall, so we're going to build on our relationship with him as we expand the program.
I have 2 questions, mostly for Shawn. Eventually, I want to take us down a path that's kind of ridiculous with the yes and, but before that,
Okay.
My question for you is that in your plot of your happiness, there were 3 data points or 3 points that are for your rating as a designer. Some of them were around 4%, and then it went up a little bit, and then eventually, when you started taking your improv class, it went through the roof, right? And you mentioned a little bit of the rules that you set with your improv group, but I still cannot connect the dots between how taking the improv class helped you gain more job satisfaction. That's my first question.
Yeah, sure. Sorry if that wasn't clear. I'm sure it wasn't. 100% sure. So the idea is that prior working these same careers, I was very kind of shelled off in very much doing things that were very individualistic that I thought were right because they were my ideas. And opening that up to other people just kind of made me a happier person. It made me happier to be at work. And when you're that person, it kind of rubs off on other people as well. And then it creates like a group mind, and everyone's kind of in the same, like, this is cool, we're all here building a thing. So, yeah.
Okay. A follow-up question.
Sure.
I still have a second question.
Okay.
So the follow-up is, how do you facilitate that kind of collaboration in an environment that does not support it?
That's super hard. And to be honest, sometimes it just won't be possible, given the circumstances. If you're working with people that just are in no way wanting to do any of that, it might just be impossible. But if you keep those principles in mind and do it yourself, the best you can hope for is that other people will follow that as well. And if you open yourself up to other people, there's a potential that other people will reciprocate, and you start building those relationships and that trust. But yeah, that's a really difficult situation.
Okay, thank you. And now my second question. I can count, I swear. So the yes and, I still cannot wrap my head around how to do that.
Okay.
So in your answer to her question earlier, you said that you would try to go down a path that's probably, you think it's ridiculous, but still go explore the idea.
Sure.
Right. So I would like to do an exercise with you.
Oh, let's do it. Okay.
Okay. All right. Or anybody in the room. Let's make it collaborative.
Yeah, let's have fun.
Yeah. Okay. So my idea is to unite the entire world. Only one government, and let's elect a lunatic as a president. Yes, and?
Trapping me in a corner. Yes, and we'll create a whole community of people who can fight against him.
Anybody else want to challenge that? I don't know how to do that.
I think we're gonna leave that there. Yeah, this is the
Fine.
this is the voice of God. This is getting dangerous. So, those were two amazing questions. Thank you.
Okay,
We gotta keep it moving. I'm here with someone who's very shy, but can we do this together from the steps?
Thank you for the support. I hate talking in front of people, so you might hear my voice shake. My name's Mo. I want to thank everybody who's put this on, because between last year and this year, my thoughts on creativity have shifted in such a way that I've been able to start coaching people who think they're not creative to start thinking creatively. And because I need notes, because now I've forgotten what I wanted to say. To the improv guy. I can't find your name now. I'm so
Shawn.
sorry. Shawn, thank you. Oh, God, it's right there, and I can't see that far away. You had mentioned in your rules of improv about failure. And with creativity and some of the talks that I've given over the last year, creative blocks has been the biggest question back at me. How do I overcome my creative blocks? How do I get past it? And the extension from creative block to failure, I'm kind of curious of what are the portents or hallmarks that you see where you're like, yeah, that's not a creative block, that might be a failure, kind of to the panel.
That's a good question. Does anyone want to take that first? So I think what Mo was saying was, how do you tell between when you're having a creative block versus when you know this is considered a failure and I should stop going down this path? I think was that correct? Sure.
I think there's two things there. One is developing enough experience. When you've been making a lot of stuff, you just start to develop, some, I don't want to say taste, I don't know if that's the right word, but like you get to know what's working and what's not working, and that becomes like much more subconscious, and you can just sort of detect when something's not going to pan out. But the other part of that is time. Like you need to have time to allow that realization to surface. And time is so frowned upon on like office ledger sheets and stuff of expecting results with the press of a button. And I've found that failure is just part of the process. Like if you have enough time, then you can, make a first draft. You can start on something. You can see the inevitable parts that aren't working, but you've got the time to then just revise and revise and revise and revise until it is working. And I think so much of the anxiety that I have felt before in the creative process comes when I don't feel like I have enough time, and so my failure on the first draft is going to be the final draft. But if you can somehow build in more time, then you just work through it and make it better.
What was the phrase that you say about
Oh, yeah, it says, it is okay and right to take the time we need to make the quality work we were born to make.
I would say failure always has to be compared to what your goal is. So with Collab Feature, I could say we failed on our first attempt, which is to write this script with a bunch of people, because our goal was to have a script that included all the people who were interested, and we were trying to do this kind of like epic worldwide rolling power outage film, and it was like not going to fit in this 90-minute, format that we wanted. So in that case, it doesn't mean the idea wasn't a good idea, but for the situation, we realized we started working on something that maybe we didn't think through enough or learn something in the process. Rarely, I think, can an idea itself be a failure. So if you're not, so creative block is usually when your own skeptic is not allowing yourself to even put out an idea because you're afraid of failing. And failing really has nothing to do with spitting out a bad idea. That's okay, because that bad idea could lead to another one. Sometimes brainstorming is all about come up with the stupidest thing you can think of. Just get that out of the system. And it starts things flowing. And but the failure, I think, comes later is deciding to pursue that idea in the wrong context, or it's not going to fit the goals you need. It's more situational and compared to what your goals are.
Yeah, failure really speaks to the end result, like that's the thing. But the idea of failing, the verb of it, and struggle, that's what work is, So I never really, you don't have to look at the thing in front of you, whether it's a creative block or something that's a failure. You just keep moving and moving.
Absolutely. When I showed that book map at the end, it was like cutting those pages of that book from 196 pages down to 174. You could say those extra pages failed, but you could also say that like realizing that and cutting those weaker pieces out made the final product stronger. So it's all kind of the perspective of how micro or macro you're looking at things.
Got another question. Hi guys, thanks for all the excellent presentations. They were really great. This question is kind of specifically for Oliver and Marty. And my name's Clayton. I'm a kind of data and programming nerd, and so when you guys were telling your stories, I kind of saw myself more in the kind of the other side of your duos or partnerships that you were a part of. And I noticed that I think both of you kind of had long-standing relationships with those people already, and I also think that it kind of seems common in these worlds that people like you guys that kind of have the drive or the vision might go and seek out someone more technical to help and execute on that. So as someone that's kind of on the other side of that, I'm curious what advice you might have on being more proactive about seeking people like you guys out that I might be able to help, push your vision forward.
Yeah, when can you start? It's, in terms of finding Ian, I wasn't looking for Ian. So we just, met at school and had shared some things in common, and he was a computer science student and I was an advertising major, but he was also a writer, and so we connected on that and started writing together. So he had a weird combination of being this creative guy and a coder. So the question is, how do you find someone who complements you and who needs you, right? I can only tell you from my experience. Then after, the Ian part was maybe an accident, but then I started looking for other collaborators we needed because Ian and I still could only do so much. We couldn't get to where we wanted to go. So we went on the internet, we started emailing people we'd met on the film festival circuit. You just start with the first thought that comes to your mind, make a list of where you're going to find somebody. And in our case, we had a project. So we were saying, hey, do you want to join this project? Maybe you have some ideas and you want to suggest them to people and ask who, if you're not interested, who would be? But seriously, let's talk after, and maybe I can. He's highly in demand.
We have a talented programmer and developer and looking for.
Everyone has an idea, right? And is looking for you.
Yeah, we need a Craigslist ad.
There's a jobs channel in Slack for Intermitten. I just want to plug that real quick. So if anyone's looking to use that, yep.
With James, I wouldn't say it's a long-standing relationship, but I got wind of his PhD research when I was working at National Geographic, and I knew I wanted to work with him to see if I could make this map of the surnames of the United States, and we collaborated and did that. But hats off to him really, because it was 2 or 3 years later when he reconnected with me to say, hey, I've been approached about making a book about some of my maps of London that he had done independently on his blog. And I really loved working with you as a designer. Would you want to team up to do this? And that book led to the animals book and a third book we're now working on. But that was really credit to him as a programmer and developer to realize that he didn't need to be a unicorn, that he could team up with someone else to design the packaging and improve the labeling and the color of all the graphics and maps to make his programming work look even stronger as a package. So.
Yeah. Help. I have tons of ideas, and I just, educator, looking for everything I see up there, visual artist, the whole nine.
Okay,
that'd be a cool thing for Intermitten if it was sort of like programmer seeking designer, everyone could just fill in the blanks for, something like that.
we have time for, in theory, one more question, but somebody's had their hand the highest. So we're going to do 2, eat into your lunch a little bit. And just a reminder, these folks will be at the pop-in tonight if you want to talk to them. They could also be the person you meet if you want to go corner them during lunch or one of our other breaks. But here we go.
Hey guys, ma'am, my name is Brandon. I'm a project manager for a creative team. And one of my responsibilities is kind of helping keep the creative chaos that can happen during projects tame. I'm curious, Marty, your platform going across to 25 different filmmakers. Creative people have a different way of doing things often and all across all different disciplines. How do you bring all of those different processes and workflows together to create a project like that? What, in your experience, kind of what has worked as far as melding all of those different ways in order to get something done by a specific date or a timeline that you're working towards? How do you manage that chaos?
I feel like there might be 2 parts to that question. So one is, how do you allow different types of creativity? Like everybody has a different approach and that kind of thing. I think the answer there is simple, is give freedom, give them, even though you're going to have to draw some lines and kind of be a little bit of an architect to where things are going. And even, let me back up and say, even when I'm the one structuring things, I get their feedback and it's up to the group to say yes or no. So if my structure is not, they don't see it, I don't communicate it well, or they just don't like it, we vote and do, we find the next idea. But I'm always super aware because I am a creative person, came to this with a certain need. I'm aware of what I would want that structure to be. And so with the first film, all you have to do is connect to the person before you and after and make sure that backpack is on its way to the next country. And you can do whatever you want within that. And of course, that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want as long as it moves things forward. But that's a lot of options. And if you see the film, you'll see this wide range of styles and everything. The next thing was more about timeline and deadlines and all that. We've blown through so many deadlines, and ultimately that becomes a vote too. Should we keep working on the film and make it better, or should we say, stick to the deadline? And usually when you're months away from a deadline, that sounds like it's forever. 3 months away, we have to be done with this. When you get there and the film is, what it needs and it can be better and it needs a few extra shots, it needs more editing, it needs music, you're gonna wanna push it and keep going. We're working on trying to get things a little better on the schedule side, but that is a trade-off with collaboration. There's extra time, there's extra work to do the collaboration, but the trade-off is that you're then splitting up that work so everybody's doing a smaller portion. Right. And I would also add, always have a backup plan when you think you're not going to make that deadline with the current plan or whatever it is. What's the MVP we can make with what we have?
I have to play traffic cop now, and it's not that much fun, but we're technically into lunch right now. We have one last question. Thank you, everybody, for your questions so far, and then we'll get into lunch. So here you go, Kyle.
I just wanted to say that if you're looking for a collaborator or a partner or somebody to work with, I just made a channel on the Slack called Partners, and you should go and join and put what you're looking for in there, and maybe somebody knows of somebody and can link you up. Partners.
Technically not a question, still worthy of applause. Could everyone please give our amazing panel a huge round of applause?